I'm probably not alone in thinking how the discussion of politics, bad as it has ever been, has grown increasingly more toxic and frankly unbearable on the internet over time. It's kind of understandable, in as much that you're fairly likely to either be discussing something that affects you personally, or something on which countless lives probably depend on. But a part of it is most certainly that the largest democracy in the world is a two-party system, which has sort of infected much of the internet with an us versus them, red versus blue mentality. A good portion of the world, including my home country of Latvia, meanwhile, operates under a multi-party system, allowing for far more nuanced voting without resorting to a lesser of two evils approach. Thinking about this, I had the realization, I could kill so many birds with this freaking stone, it's nuts. I invite you to join me for the following week to learn a little bit about Latvian politics as a way for you, my non-Latvian viewers, to experience political discourse much the same you would experience team sports. Sure, it'll be nice if your guys win, but it ultimately won't change your life whether they do or not. In this video, I'll start by giving you the general gist of how our political system works and what's going on next week in our regional elections. And in the next video, I'll try and give a rundown of our political parties, trying to mostly stay unbiased. Although right out the gate, I'll tell you I'll be having zero respect for BS populism and will be calling it out accordingly. Let's begin. Latvia is a parliamentary republic, its governing body being the Saeima. It's a body of 100 politicians, elected from a broad selection of parties every 4 years. You go to a building, show your passport or ID, they say yerp, and you vote for the party you like. Parties are divided into lists, which will sometimes see several parties unite into one list to garner more votes, and then divvy up seats post-election if they make it in. There's a 5% bar for getting into government, meaning that a party receiving less than 5% of the total vote won't be getting in. This was something put in place considering the often crippling number of parties in government during the country's interwar period. After the election, those 100 seats are divided proportionally depending on what percentage each list got. Those lists and parties ultimately decide amongst themselves which candidates from the lists they want to get in, but also take into account another aspect, the so-called plus and crossing out system. The ballots you get on election day are literally lists of people in the party running for office. You add a little plus next to the name if you like the person, and cross the name out entirely if you do not. Doing anything else on the ballot, like drawing a big PP, results in the ballot being invalid. After the election, the leading party, so long as they don't already hold a majority, will try and form a coalition, bringing together like-minded parties and making compromises until they do, in fact, hold a majority. The current leading coalition holds a real tight margin, for example, led by the new Unity Party with a 50-member majority, supported by 3 more candidates, with an opposition of a whopping 47 members. How that all came about, we can discuss in a later video. Another thing to consider is that post-election, there's no guarantee party allegiances won't be changing. Often enough, a party will be elected, see internal conflict and enticement from other parties, and have its members split off to join other parties or simply become unaffiliated. For example, the tumultuous populist party Latvia First has seen members Oleg Burov leave its ranks post-election, while also seeing a member switch to their party from the Stability Party. And it's also not unheard of that a party will simply entirely dissolve once it gets into government. Once the parties are elected and settled, there's also presidential elections, with a 2-year gap between the presidential and Saeima ones, and the president also elected for 4 years. The president is elected in what is now an open vote from the members of Saeima, with parties proposing candidates prior to the election. Votes are repeated until a candidate receives over half the votes necessary, each member of Saeima getting to vote for and against each proposed candidate separately. Now that was all about national elections, and local ones, like the one happening next week, are very similar. In fact, the process is almost identical with only a few key differences. Regional elections, to the foreign mind, would be somewhere between a county or state election and the mayoral one, except as with Saeima, you're voting for parties to elect multiple members into a local council type of government. The number of people elected depends on the size of the municipality. National towns, a designation for larger towns by Latvia's standards, mind you, have 13 seats with populations below 50,000, and 15 with higher populations. Regions under 30,000 people have 15 seats, 19 seats in regions with populations over 30,000, and 23 seats in regions over 60,000, which last time around was only the region of Ugda. Again, to someone from larger countries, these minuscule divisions might seem silly, but they're fairly functional. More so than the previous, even more granular divisions, even though the nation also saw serious protest and pushback when the region reforms, combining many of the smaller ones, happened. For example, my hometown of Sigulda is part of the Sigulda region, which in 2021 absorbed the neighboring regions of Malpils and Krimulda, previously separate regions with under 5,000 people in them. This has resulted in some friction, mainly on the issue of country schools. Country here in the sense of basically farmland. Small schools with only a few students in them. The question then becomes, do we keep these schools open to make a couple more jobs and ensure the kids living in the countryside have a shorter trip to school, or ditch the country schools and cut administrative costs basically in half? Those are the kinds of issues most regional governments deal with. Administration, infrastructure, local cultural events, and zoning deals, funded largely by local tax, and mostly sales tax, I believe. These aren't separate states which can change laws or ignore national ones. They don't have much autonomy to them. And if you don't like living in any region, it's really just a matter of moving to a different one fairly easily, so long as you can find a job. So, these regional elections are perfect for our little team sports approach to politics. Riga, being the capital of about 600,000 people, has 60 seats in its local government, and the issues become a little more broad there. Ethnic divide, infrastructure on a national level, large-scale business ventures, university investment, pride parades and other marches, making it usually a bit more important than the rest. Kind of. And that's sort of it when it comes to explaining the very basics of our political system. Like I said, in the next video, I'll be talking more about specific parties in broad strokes, and then if there's particular interest or particularly notable things to talk about separate parties and how the election is going on the pre-election days, well, we'll be doing separate videos then. Please leave a comment and a like if you enjoyed this video and this idea, if you want to see more, or if you have any particular questions about how this whole process works, or just about anything when it comes to these politics. The elections are basically all of next week, culminating on the election day on Saturday. Previous days are pre-election days where people can still come in and do their votes, and I myself will be voting on Saturday since that is a day off I have. And yeah, we'll be also doing a post-mortem after these elections, so to speak, and talking about how they went and what was surprising and what was not. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Also, like, be chill in the comments. Please. That's kind of the point.